You are listening to the Aging Options podcast with elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich. As the best-selling author of Your Retirement, Dream or Disaster, and host of 2 hit public television specials, Rajiv Nagaich has emerged as a retirement planning thought leader known for his willingness to disrupt the status quo. In this weekly podcast, Rajiv Nagaich offers piercing insights about the hidden traps in traditional retirement planning advice, along with straight talk about the problems during retirement that money, investments, estate plans, and insurance products don't address. If your retirement plan has been all about saving money, creating an estate plan, and buying long-term care insurance, what Rajiv Nagaich says may surprise you.
Welcome to another edition of Aging Options, the podcast. Today what I want to cover is the issue about a financial planner being a fiduciary. Often when I'm counseling people on estate planning issues, and we will go to the financial planning piece of things where people's assets are, oftentimes people will say that, I have a fiduciary for a financial planner. It's almost like a badge of honor. I found something, I've done something that nobody else is doing. And I always have to kind of muse about the whole thing and say, I'm glad that you have a fiduciary. But don't think that a fiduciary today is what it was even 10, 15 years ago. A fiduciary is okay. Just about everyone in the financial world today is a fiduciary. So how did this lingo about somebody being a fiduciary come about? Well, it turns out the Department of Licensing many years ago had sued large employers, and they had gone to the employers to say, you are responsible for negotiating the best prices on behalf of your employees when you're selecting a retirement plan that you want your employees to participate in. So the employers were put on notice that they just can't take a hands-off approach, if you will. They had some responsibility to do right by the employees. Well, the employers being employers, they don't want to take that responsibility. So they basically went down to all the financial industry and said, we will only allow you to go ahead and offer services if you are going to protect us from this rule. And that protection effectively became a fiduciary standard. If the employer is going to be held responsible as a fiduciary, meaning you have to look out for the best interest of your employees, then the employers just went down and said, we want people who represent our employees, who work with our employees also to be fiduciaries, meaning they have to keep the interests of the employees ahead of their own interests. So effectively, a government rule changed the whole landscape within which financial planning was to be done. Financial planning companies found out that we have no hope of going to large employers like Boeing or Microsoft to be able to sell our retirement plans to them unless until we are fiduciaries. So they all started saying that we are now fiduciaries. And the reason why the financial planning industry all of a sudden accentuated this issue, it's only in the last 5 to 7 years that this issue about a fiduciary has become so big. Why? Because you give the financial industry lemons, and what are they going to do with it? They'll add sugar and water and make it lemonade. And that's what they did. So all of a sudden, they started hyping themselves. They're forced and backed into a corner that you're going to be held to the standard of a fiduciary. So why not just go ahead and educate the public and say, look, I'm a fiduciary, I'm a fiduciary, I'm a fiduciary. I'm hard-pressed to find somebody who is not a fiduciary in the financial industry anymore. So what you need to be looking for is not just a fiduciary. What you need to be looking for is somebody who has competence, somebody who has education, somebody who does something to invest a little bit better than their competitor does. It would be better for you to look at a fiduciary who also happens to be a certified financial planner. These are designations that financial planners earn. You should be looking for how much time does this financial planner spend on educating themselves rather than just sitting in the office and selling as much as they can to as many people as they can. But even more important than being a certified financial planner, you want to work with somebody who is going to spend time with you to develop something called a financial dashboard. Look, financial planning, if you really break it down, it is about making sure that you are not going to outlive your money in retirement, that your money is going to outlive you. I mean, that's the whole point of financial planning. But when you look at the financial planning industry itself, the focus of the financial planning industry is how they help you invest the money in the marketplace, right? And how you invest the money is not the same thing as how do you make sure that your money is not going to run out before you're going to run out of life. That you're actually going to have money on the day that you take your last breath. That probably is the more important thing. You want to live a long, healthy, and an enjoyable life, not one without money. And for that, you need to find somebody who does a financial dashboard. And sadly, even though most financial planners have this tool available to them, very few of the planners really know how to use the tool well or actually use the tool. Even if they know how to use it, they don't. Why? It's not going to make them any more money. The typical financial planner is going to make a living by accumulating something called assets under management. You have a $500,000 portfolio, you allow this person to go ahead and invest it. They're going to get a certain percentage of that portfolio, whether it's 1%, whether it's 0.8%, whether it's 2%, somewhere there, they're going to make that money regardless as to how large or small your portfolio is. For people who have very large portfolios, you could actually negotiate and they might actually band it out. The first $1 million, we charge this much. For the second million, we charge this much. For everything above, we charge this much. And this is all negotiable that's out there. But in the end, the percentage that you pay a financial planner, to me as a life planner, is less important than their willingness and ability to sit with you and say, let's do a financial dashboard. So what is a dashboard? Well, if you happen to be working, the more important questions you want to focus on: when do I retire? When should I start Social Security? How much income will I need in retirement so I'm able to live out a good quality of life, knowing that my income is probably never going to keep up with the inflation and the expenses that I'm going to be experiencing. So you have to look at the rest of your life. Maybe what happens, and you want to make sure that if you're one of the few freaks who gets to live out to be 105, 110 years of age, you still have $10 left. There's nothing worse in America than to be living life without the backing of any money. Right? These are the sorts of questions that are far more important than how do you invest money. So when you're looking for a financial planner, it's okay for you to go ahead and have somebody as a fiduciary. Quite frankly, today, I'm hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't say I'm a fiduciary. Everyone is a fiduciary, so pretty much that train has now left the station, which is a good thing for the controller. But what you're looking for is you want to look for designations like certified financial planners, and you also want to look for people who are willing to go that extra step and do something and help you prepare something called a financial dashboard. When should I retire? When should I start Social Security? Where will the money come from to allow me to live a good quality of life? Should I convert my IRAs to Roth IRAs? Am I a good candidate to buy a long-term care insurance policy? Am I a good candidate to look at reverse mortgages? These are all foundational questions on which you should be building your financial plan. I hope you find this kind of information interesting, because I promise you, in the commercial world, this type of information is just pretty much hidden or non-existent. If it doesn't make the industry money, you're not going to be getting the information unless you tune into Aging Options, the podcast.
Hello, producer Alec here. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Aging Options, the podcast. If you would like to know more about this topic and many other topics surrounding retirement, aging, and how to ensure that you're able to live out the retirement you deserve, please head on over to AgingOptions.com. If you want a comprehensive, deep dive into planning your retirement and don't want to wait until next week's podcast, I highly recommend Rajiv's best-selling book, Your Retirement, Dream or Disaster. You can find both soft and hardcover editions on the AgingOptions.com website. Please follow us on social media at Aging Options. If you want to see this podcast in video form, you can find us on YouTube, also at Aging Options. Until next week, age on.